Welcome, welcome. I am Dena, and I want to welcome you to another discussion with Dena. Not just now, but there has been a lot of talk about everyday individuals. Individuals that come from poor upbringings, middle class, or even well to do families. These political figures have been given or elected and asked to go and represent people in their districts wherever they are in this country. But when these political figures that we have seen or have been elected leave, when they come back or become acquainted with their jobs, it seems as if they become rich almost overnight. And I have always wondered, what is that secret? What secrets do they have? And how in the heck can we get that? We need only look to what's going on currently, the political figures and the wealth that they managed to accumulate as politicians. They have various grassroots individual or politicians who we have elected. We can't help but ask ourselves, how the heck do they become so rich so fast? But do we really want to know? We need to examine this because we elect them to do a job they are entrusted. And the intent should be to go and fight for the people who elected you there, whether it's Washington, their state's capital, even in local government, in municipalities. Their job is to work on behalf of the citizens that put them there. The people, the American citizens who voted them into office with a specific mandate. And that mandate is often intended to better the lives of the citizens, their families, their friends, their communities, but it's supposed to benefit the citizen. But we send them there, and oftentimes they become the recipients of wealth, and they're often unrecognizable when they return to the community. They seem to morph into these wealthy individuals who sometimes appear to be out of touch with why they went there in the first place, and they're more concerned about keeping their position in which they were elected to, while delivering no resources, no goods, no services, no tangibles to the people that elected them to go and fight on their behalf. And their work becomes convincing voters to keep them in that particular position. But while they serve, they have no real purpose, it seems. They're more like placeholders, and they soon appear out of touch with the constituents that sent them there in the first place. But noticeably, they seem somehow to become rich and richer and unbelievably wealthy over the years. And we've seen this for many years, and I, for one, have always wondered, how do they do this? What information are they privy to that we are not as everyday citizens? It is obvious and really quite disturbing that in this day and age, it continues to happen. They appear to have come up personally once again. They are these good shepherds when we send them, but they seem to have no mind, no care, no concern for the care of the sheep. So the sheep are left wandering and waiting while they, the good shepherds, appear to be leading a healthy, wealthy, and often prosperous life. But what about your sheep? Good shepherds, have you no concern for the sheep that lifted you into that position? What about our well-being? Have you advocated resources and covenants or even arrangements that would allow us to live better, at least have some of the comforts that you yourself, Good Shepherd, enjoy? And hopefully you all get the metaphor, because I recently read an article that was posted by the BBC. And in this particular article, it was quite informative, I must say. This article stated that insider trading has been illegal for most Americans since the Securities Act was passed in 1933. It was extended to cover U.S. government officials in 2012, although to date, no one has been prosecuted under the law. Now, Paul Alden is a professor who specializes in financial regulations laws at the business school ESSEC. And he says that the rules are quite difficult to enforce when it comes to holding these politicians accountable. Now, throughout our current president's term in office, this is his second term, traders have been betting millions of dollars just before he makes major announcements. And the BBC itself has examined trade volume data on several financial markets and matched them to some of the president's most significant market moving statements, and found that there's a consistent pattern of spikes just hours and sometimes minutes before a social media post or media interview was made publicly. Now, some analysts say it bears the hallmarks of illegal insider trading, whereby bets are made by people based on information that is not available to the general public. Now, others say the picture is more complicated and that some traders have become more adept in anticipating the president's interventions. But Alden also says that the financial authorities will not carry out a prosecution if they can't figure out who the source of information is. None of the U.S. financial authorities contacted by the BBC acknowledged any of the allegations of insider trading. You can have massive trades on a financial instrument that clearly show that someone was privy to what the president was about to declare. Yet, there's a strong chance that no one would be prosecuted. This is what he said. He even gave 5 significant examples of such. And he said that some of the biggest movements have been in oil trades on the futures market. March 9th is one example, 2026. 9 days into the U.S.-Israel war with Iran, the president told CBS News in a phone interview that the conflict was very complete, pretty much. That was at 1829, and the all bets surged. 1829 is the time. At 1916, when he says war is near complete, 1917, all drops by 25%. And this is in GMT. Of course, this has to do with how time, and if you're in the military, you know it's like the 24 time, but the GMT represents how the BBC is, which is like a 6-hour difference with us. So 1829 is like 6:29. So those who are familiar with it understand it. Now, the first time the public would have known about the interview was at 15:16 Eastern Time, when the reporter posted about it. He posted about it on X. Now, all traders reacted to this news that the conflict could end much sooner than expected by selling oil, with the price plunging by around 25%. However, market data shows a huge surge of bets were placed on the price of oil, falling at $6.29, which was a full 47 minutes before the reporter's post. Now, the traders who placed those bets will have made millions of dollars from the movement in oil prices. Then, example 2 was on March 23rd of 2026. Just 2 days after threatening to obliterate Iran's power plants, Trump posted on Truth Social that Washington had held very good and productive conversations with Tehran over a complete and total resolution to hostilities. It was a major surprise to diplomatic observers and to traders. This was 1048 to 1050. The oil bets began to surge. At 11:04, Trump posts about total resolution to hostilities. At 11:05, oil dropped by 11%. Immediately, stocks rose and the U.S. benchmark price of oil, which had been climbing, fell sharply. And as the BBC reported at that time, it was 14 minutes before the president's post that there were an unusually high number of bets on the U.S. oil price. The same pattern was seen in traders buying contracts for Brent crude, the other major oil benchmark. The trades appear abnormal for sure, the oil analyst told the BBC at that time. Example 3, on April 2nd last year, Trump announced that he called Liberation Day a sweeping set of tariffs on goods from practically every country in the world, and stock markets around the globe plunged. But a week later, when Trump announced a 90-day pause on the levies for all countries except China, stocks markets soared. Now, the benchmark S&P 500 index jumped by 9.5%, which is one of its largest single-day gains since the Second World War. Now, at 1800, traders start making big bets on stock markets going up. 1818, Trump announces tariff pause, and that's 618. At 619, the stock market begins historic surge. Again, there's a pattern of unusual trading preceded these events with an unusually high number of bets ahead of the announcement. On one fund that tracked the S&P 500, the number of contracts traded jumped to over 10,000 per minute just after 6 o'clock BST. Early in the day, the number had been in the hundreds. Some traders bet over $2 million on the stock market increasing that day, even though it had gone through 7 days in a row of losses. The huge surge could have generated them a profit of almost $20 million. Now, later that week, several senior Democrats in the U.S. Senate wrote to the Securities and Exchange Commission, which is the SEC, urging the financial regulator to investigate whether the president's announcements enrich administration's insiders and friends at the expense of the American public. When asked by the BBC whether it had looked into these allegations, a spokesman for the SEC declined to comment. Meanwhile, at the White House, they did not respond to a request by the BBC for a comment on any of this unusual trading activity that was analyzed in this report. One user in example 4 actually won $436,000 betting on Nicolas Maduro being out of office by the end of January. In December 2025, burdensome mix account created. On January 2nd, 2026, the account put $32,000 on Maduro being ousted. On January 3rd, 2026, Maduro is seized, and burdensome mix wins $436,000. The recent growth of online prediction markets has also drawn scrutiny from observers. Blockchain-powered platforms such as Polymarket and Kalshi offer users the chance to speculate on anything from the weather to baseball to U.S. foreign policy. President Trump's son, by the name of Donald Trump Jr., is an investor in Polymarket, and he sits on the advisory board. He also acts as a strategic advisor to Kashi and has been contacted by the BBC for comment as well. In December 2025, one user created an account on Polymarket called Burdensome Mix, and on December 30th, it placed its first bet on Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro being out of office by the end of January 2026. Between December 30th and January 2nd, Burdensome Mix placed a total of $32,500 on the position. When Maduro was seized by the U.S. Special Forces and ousted the following day, Burdensome Mix won $436,000. Now, shortly afterwards, the account changed its username and has not placed any bets since that time. In February of 2026, there were 6 accounts created on Polymarket. February 28th, accounts win $1.2 million between them. And this is according to the blockchain analysis website Bubble Maps. 6 accounts were created on Polymarket in February. All placed wagers on a U.S. strike on Iran happening by February 28th. When the attacks were confirmed by President Trump in the early hours of that day, the accounts earned $1.2 million between them. Now, 5 of those 6 users have placed no more bets since, but one of the accounts' recent activity shows it subsequently made $163,000 by correctly betting on a U.S.-Iran ceasefire by April 7th, which was announced by Washington and Tehran on that day. Polymarket told the BBC it sets, maintains, and enforces the highest standards of market integrity, adding that it proactively works with regulators and law enforcement to do so. In March this year, both Polymarket and Kashi outlined new rules to crack down on insider trading. Predictions markets come under the jurisdiction of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, which is CFTC. And they did not respond to the BBC's request for comments on this issue. But its chair recently told a congressional committee that his organization had zero tolerance for fraud and for insider trading. It has also surfaced that the White House has sent an internal email to staff on last month warning them not to use insider information to place bets on predictions markets. Spokesman Davis Ingle told the BBC at that time that any implication that administration officials are engaged in such activity without evidence is baseless and is irresponsible reporting. But is it? Or is it that it's just too difficult to prove? Let me know what you think about this topic. Subscribe and leave me your comment. Should there be repercussions for these behaviors, these coincidences? Are they purely coincidence? Or is it just much to do about nothing? Let me know what you think about this discussion. I want to thank you for listening, and be sure to join me next time for another discussion with Dena. Ta-ta!
This concludes your daily discussions with Dena. Join us Monday through Friday at 12:30 p.m. Like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment.